Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2019 IMSA State of the Series. At this time, I'd like to have our guests on stage introduce them. The president of IMSA, Mr. Scott Atherton, and the voice of IMSA on IMSA radio around the world, Mr. John Hindhaugh.
Right, before I even sit down, we've got seats in the front row here. This is not like being back at school. Come on, we're not going to throw stuff at you. Sit yourself down, make yourself comfortable, because if there's any space left, we're going to let some fans in. So if you're a hard card holder and you're not sitting down, find yourself a seat right now, please, and then we can let some more people come in as well. All right? Mobile phones off now, ladies and gentlemen, as well. A little bit of housekeeping there. Thank you. Thank you, Porsche people. You're very kind.
A little shout out for the...
Yeah, well, no, it's just that, you know, they did as they were told. That's fantastic. There's some seats over by the far corner as well.
I can tell you the lights are so bright we can't tell who's in the front row, so you're completely anonymous. Come on up.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, this time last year, Scott and I were on this same stage talking about the 50th anniversary of IMSA. Scott, thank you for being with us tonight. I know you've got a lot going on at the moment. We've got a great weekend of racing coming up here at America's National Park of Speed. And was there ever a description any more apt for beautiful Road America than that? Before we get into tonight's presentation, which will include Scott giving us the state of the series and looking forward to next year's calendars, let's remind ourselves why we love coming to Wisconsin and why we love coming to Road America. We're live trackside at Road America. Road racing is a part of local tradition here.
Middle Wisconsin, great cheese, great food, great people. The fans were unbelievable and very knowledgeable. Everybody seemed to know more about my car than I did.
It's a long lap here.
It's the longest track on the IMSA WeatherTech Championships.
The most fun lap in racing, I think, anywhere in the world. So on top of that, it's one of the greatest tracks for racing. It always produces a great race.
It's in the air, it's waving, and they're on the throttle.
There it is. Power to the inside, big move.
Proper circuits, loved by proper drivers.
Everyone talks about the kink. That's nearly flat out, super fast, super high consequence, but it leads onto the longest straightaway, so it's also super important.
Build up speed all the way through, then now you actually come right to the edge of the road there.
Good traction off corners is big. You got to have some straight line speed there. There's still some really high speed, challenging corners. So you just got to have a well-balanced car.
It starts the final third of the season.
And every point means championship positions. This is absolutely fantastic. So much going on. Where do you look?
This track, if you get it wrong, will not only knock you down, it will knock you out.
Placed in a beautiful, picturesque surrounding, it is America's National Park of Speed.
So many great tracks in this country, but that one stands out for me as one of the special ones.
Do we love coming here to Road America? Of course we do. Round of applause, please, for our hosts this weekend.
I have to say, I just spoke to Mike Kircher, who's the new president and general manager here, just minutes ago. He said it's the best Friday they've ever had since IMSA has been coming here. The forecast, obviously, for the weekend, perfect weather. I think we're on tap for a record weekend.
Oh, great to hear. And I'm sure that all of the drivers and teams here will be doing their very best to give us plenty of entertainment, as we've just seen there. Scott, 1969 to this year, the golden era of IMSA racing and our golden year this year. Pretty much a year ago, we sat here talking about what was going to happen this year, and effectively, it had 4 cornerstones, the plan for this year. We're about halfway through the year, about halfway through the season, and appropriate enough, about two of those 4 cornerstones have already been met.
Exactly. It was literally a year ago tonight that I started to disrobe, only to show that I was wearing the first example of the 50th anniversary logo that we had created. And at that time, we announced that we were going to have a 4 cornerstone plan for the year, kicking off with the Rolex 24 at Daytona with a tribute to the cars and drivers. We've had great support throughout the whole season. If you recall, many teams, many manufacturers have put together historic liveries that harken back to decades ago. Drivers growing 1960s style mustaches. I don't know what makes it a 60s style mustache, but that was the story. We went on from there to Sebring. It's a little difficult to pay tribute to all the great venues, promoters, racetracks, but we did the best we could at Sebring. Big highlight about to happen. 2 weeks from now, we will be the featured mark at the Rolex reunion at Monterey. It's the first time ever that a sanctioning body has been named the featured mark. And to say that this is going to be a highlight of the year, I think would be an understatement. It's really going to be special. Tremendous car turnout, drivers, historical elements of all description will be there. And of course, we're going to finish up very strong at Motul Petit Le Mans at the new Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta with a tribute to the fans. A little bit of a tip of the hat to Don Panos and his original logo from the American Le Mans Series that actually had the phrase "for the fans" in it. So the first 1,969 fans through the gate
See
will
what
get
you did there.
special gift.
Yeah.
So watch that space. You can see, just before we move on, I want to point out the item that was there, the display that we will have in Monterey. Want to thank the manufacturers that made that possible for us. I'm not going to list them off, but they know who they are, and it'll make it very special for everybody.
Scott, you can plan, you can put a strategy together for a 50th anniversary, and some of the great events that IMSA have hosted have worked fantastically well. What you might not have expected is the response that you've got from the automotive and motorsport media. And I'm talking here not about paid advertising, I'm talking about people genuinely getting involved.
The example you're seeing is from Automobile Magazine, which there's so many examples we could spend the rest of the evening clicking through them, but this was a special one. I think it's 10 pages long. It does a fantastic job of highlighting the cars, the teams, the drivers, a tribute there to Don Panos. Very, very well done. And as you say, the earned media and the response that we've had season long. And candidly, there's more to come. We talk about the historic liveries. There's a manufacturer that's going to bring something really special to the season finale that I think will be one of the fan favorites on the season.
You keep dropping these little surprises on me and teasing me.
You got to do it. You know, okay. I'm famous for if you only knew what I knew. So.
Yeah, true enough. It would have been easy, Scott, to have majored on a 50th anniversary and forgot about what you've got. IMSA has not done that. They've continued to develop. And one of the great things that have been picked up this year is in the Reader's Choice Awards, the USA Reader's Choice Awards, the best North American motorsport race. Now, if I'd got 5 out of 10 in my report from school, I think my dad would have had a word with me. But particularly in US sport, if you were batting 500, that's Hall of Fame in Major League Baseball. 5 out of the top 10, whittled down from an original top 20, as voted by the public, are IMSA races. But not just 5 out of the top 10, the top 1 and 4, 5, and 6, all IMSA races. Extraordinary.
It is, and it's something that everybody in this room and many others who are not here with us tonight can take a lot of pride in, because it's the events that we put on that have made this possible. This is voted on by the fans. You can't stuff the ballot box. Every sanctioning body sent out a notice to their people, to their folks, to their distribution list about this process that USA Today was going through. A special shout out to Wayne Estes and the team at Sebring. Number one, that is truly remarkable. The fact that 5 of the 10 have direct affiliation with IMSA, as I said, it's something we should all take great pride in, and we consider this the ultimate validation from our fans of what's going on at the racetrack.
Love it. Brilliant stuff. Again, this time last year, if we think back, a 12-month, we were about to welcome Michelin into the series, taking on that challenge for them of taking on every single category in the IMSA championships. And it's been a good year. It's been a great year for Michelin. Notice, by the way, anybody from Michelin, I didn't say it was a good year. I said it was a great year, okay?
Michelin's been a great partner. If you go back, if you were affiliated with the American Le Mans Series, a great partner through that era, part of this merged platform in the GTLM category, but beginning this year, our new official tire partner across all classes. And what a debut, to start at Sebring with all that event threw at us with the foul weather, just the preparation and the execution there was beyond reproach. You think of some other examples. They went on from there to Sebring with the Super Sebring with the World Endurance Championship joining us. I think there was a football field under roof with 16 or 17,000 tires that were required for the weekend. Great partner that has had wonderful results on track, has also been activating heavily off track. They've actually prepared a video that gives us a little snapshot of how the season has gone on track, and we'll come back and cover a couple other points when it's done. Let's take a look.
this point, ladies and gentlemen, you are allowed to give our friends at Michelin a little round of applause, I think.
There's more to the Michelin story than all those track records and the wonderful results they've had on track. If you think back several months ago, it was announced that they were becoming the venue entitlement, what is now Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta. Our next event coming up at VIR, Michelin, the title sponsor of that. They've put a dealer activation together. They're entertaining large numbers of dealers. They've got a media influencer plan that's out there that brings media representatives and high-profile influencers from both inside the automotive industry as more importantly outside to experience what we're doing. It's a great partnership. We need to remind ourselves often though that we're 8 races into a 10-year relationship. We want to keep going faster and faster, but the future's bright here for sure.
And I should say as well, the guys at Michelin may record some stuff for each individual event whereby your guests or members of the public can walk up outside the Michelin village, I'm going to call it for want of a better word, and hear the story of how the tyres get to the track and what happens and the technology behind it and the commitment behind what Michelin do at every IMSA event as well. It's worth pushing people that way. Scott, it is traditional here that we do have to talk about where we are in the season. That's why we call it the state of the series. We're 2/3, 3/4 of the way through, but this year, for you marketing types, you want to know metrics, don't you? You like numbers, you like figures. Scott, take us through some of the headlines.
Absolutely. I'm not going to read all these numbers. Everybody can see them up on the screen here, but let's talk about television first. We're essentially flat in TV year to date, which most people would say, well, it's hard to get excited about that. What's important to understand, though, is that at this time last year, we had already had our 2 network broadcasts on Fox. So those were some big numbers that we generated. We thought we had, and frankly, we were scheduled to have our first NBC network show associated with Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. For reasons beyond anyone's ability to control, that did not happen. So what was thought to be a home run turned out to be a pop fly, and we were out. But the bottom line is our best TV is yet to come. We're going to hear more about that, but I want to make sure that everybody understands that television-wise, we are in a really good place. I want to share with you, it's my only cheat sheet of the night, but I wanted to make sure I got this right. In terms of the live streams that you see across the bottom left there, 58% increase. That's a byproduct of the NBC app. Much more robust, a lot more people have it. It's a byproduct of NBC's Olympic coverage that has so many people out there. In terms of digital, basically some increases across both the total connections, the number of hours of live streaming, the app screen views. We have a lot of people, a 34% increase watching through our app. So great increase there. Social is where we're hitting the cover off the ball. In terms of the impressions, 70% increase year over year. The total engagements, the content we have out there that people are commenting on, sharing, going back and forth with their friends, 118% increase. And finally, the earned video views, 86% increase. So all of these numbers really healthy, trending the right direction. We're not alone in that. You know, there's a transformation taking place, but the core of our television coverage is still very important. And we're in a really good place in that category for sure.
I want to pick up before we leave this slide about the social side of things. I like to think that I'm tech savvy, although I still use a BlackBerry, so perhaps you might want to disagree with me on that. But at least
steam powered, right?
But yeah, it runs and it's secure. That is all I'm going to say. The numbers that we're seeing there suggests to me that we're engaging a younger audience, and that's one way to do it. There are other ways. One of which is the immense growth of e-gaming. I've been involved with Forza Motorsport. IMSA it was that got me involved with it. But e-gaming, where is IMSA going with that, and how does that help people in this room?
Just about every partner we work with tells us that e-sport and e-gaming is a priority for them. And we're certainly in line with that and have been. If you look at iRacing, there's been IMSA content on there from the beginning. You see the most recent debut about to come out, the Audi RS3. Forza has been the foundational partner of our e-sport over 100 IMSA cars that you can choose from on that platform. I still think it's the largest, most popular motorsport-related, automotive-related platform. Real Racing 3 is a relatively new addition for us. It's primarily mobile, if not exclusively so. Great content there. The one that we're going to show a brief clip on here, though, deals with Codemasters. It's not yet out. That'll happen in October. And when you think about the manufacturers that are involved with us, this will give you a good impression of what's in it for them. You mentioned the young people that are following what we do. I think everybody that attends our events takes note of how many young people are in attendance, young families, college-age kids, high school-age kids, and younger. Many of our automotive partners might say that's not our target demographic, but it will be. And for certain, that is the next generation of our core fan in the pipeline headed our way. This is a very important element of that, but there's a lot more to it. Let's take a look at what the grid is going to bring to us through their Codemasters.
To see our manufacturers represented in that way. I still can't really get my head around the quality of 4K gaming. But that is not just the cars that we saw there, that's all of our manufacturers that are involved there.
Yeah, it's hard to tell if that isn't actual cars racing through a downtown urban setting or computer generated. It's blurred the lines of that, and if you're a manufacturer involved in these games, you're happy with what you're seeing, no doubt.
Codemasters, by the way, based about 45 minutes from where I live, right in the centre of England, and have great hits behind them like Colin McRae Rally. They were the guys behind that, and British Touring Car Games and World Touring Car Games as well. So they have history. That new game will be a hit, I'll tell you that. It's not sexy, but it's important. Administration, logistics. We've talked about what happens on the track, but none of that, Scott, can go on. I can't get excited about racing if the race cars, the drivers and the teams haven't turned up.
We often talk about innovation on the track and what's happening within the racing that we're involved with, but it's rare that you find out about innovation that's going on behind the scenes. There's two examples I want to share with you tonight. This will be the second time that we've done a driver combine. You needed a hard card to get in the room tonight, so you can appreciate this whether you're a driver or not. But if you are a driver or you know one, encourage them to participate in this combine. The bottom line is they can show up at the combine at the Motul Petit Le Mans. You see the dates, the times, the location right at the track, and literally walk away after a paperless process with your 2020 credentials, license ready to go. No standing in line at the Rolex or the Roar. It's in and out the door, and it's seamless. Special shout out to Angela Hall, Cindy Robinson, and their team. They have been doing all the heavy lifting here, but wait, there's more. We've got a competitor enhancement that will go across the board, so it's not just driver focused, it's not on a single day. The entire process is about to become paperless. So all of it preloaded. Somebody said it will be easier than Tesla, where you can buy a car in 3 clicks. This will be the similar example to that within IMSA. All of your information will populate automatically. This is where we need to go, and I'm so proud of the work that our team has been doing here. It's going to be a real innovation.
And if you look up on the right-hand side, that screen that you see there, that effectively is the welcome screen. And Lindsay Fox, part of the IMSA admin team, has put a video together. You're all going to get that in the next few days that literally walks you through it. It's like a YouTube tutorial. I've seen it. I can make it work. And frankly, if I can make it work, Eve, my boss and long-suffering wife, is here tonight. I don't get to do any of the admin normally, but I can make that work. So if I can make that work, trust me, it's going to be a lot easier for you guys. Scott, the 50th anniversary, we've talked about that already. We've talked about the cornerstones that we've hit. There's still things to come, including some great celebrations.
Yeah, we're already planning the party, and just as we did last year, we will gather for the WeatherTech Night of Champions on Sunday evening. Many long-suffering Monday nights that we've been through, but as we did successfully last year, we're going to do it again this year. It's a huge effort to pull that off after a very late night on Saturday at the racetrack, but we're going to do it. And the same thing applies for the Michelin Pilot Challenge Awards, which will also be held at Chateau Elan, same venue. So we're in a good place here, looking forward to it.
But even after that, the racing doesn't stop, because after the inaugural Michelin sports car Encore Sebring last year, which was originally meant for everybody to get used to the new partnership, it worked so well, people said, can we do it again? And Michelin and IMSA have said, yes, we can.
Absolutely, and there's been some tweaking, some learning that came out of last year. You see the dates that we'll be gathering. Here's the news I was talking about. Just like last year, it'll feature LMP3 cars, GT4, TCR, and GT3 has now been added. The way that that has been possible is last year, if you recall, we conflicted directly with the Classic 24 at Daytona and also the California 8-hour, part of the SRO championship. So a lot of choices, a lot of conflict that's been resolved. You see the driver details of what's available, what's legal, what's not. There's more details to come here as far as what you can win when you come in first place. A nice check for $10,000 and a couple of sets of Michelin tires that go with it. Second and third and so on. Entries opening September 18th. It's going to be another good event. The inaugural one was very successful. We've listened to the feedback from the people that were involved, and we're going to hit it again, as you say. And there's another new addition. I think everybody's familiar with Oktoberfest. We're going to now introduce NOVEMBERFEST, and it will be in partnership with our friends at Porsche. Not an official Porsche GT3 Cup championship race, no points involved, no championship involved, but a standalone weekend to hopefully entice some new players to come out. And this really applies to the whole of the Encore. It's not just intended for those that are actively involved in IMSA, but ideally those that might want to sample it and in a low stress, low impact weekend, so to speak, but a lot of fun. So compressed schedule. This is, again, some learning from last year.
Is that a day shorter than last year?
One day shorter.
Yeah.
So show up about midday on Friday, get loaded in, practice in the first Porsche Cup race on Saturday, come back and practice, qualify, and race with the Encore event all on Sunday. So it's a great time of year. There's parts of the country where winter has already arrived in that point. So come join us at Sebring in November.
And now, hang on a second, that's changed. That says 2020, that's not got the gold band. So that's next year, that's next year's race already announced.
You are one astute
You slipped
individual.
that in on me there.
Well, just to put any fears to rest that Encore doesn't have a long runway ahead of it, there's a multi-year commitment with the track, and there's also a multi-year commitment with Michelin. Okay. So we thought, why not just put the 2020 date out tonight as well, since we're talking about dates and schedules. And you're right, the color scheme has changed a bit. As we said earlier, it was this night a year ago that we introduced this great logo that has been fun to work with. We've seen it on the cars, the transporters. I proudly wear the lapel pin whenever possible. Gold has been good, but it's time to go back to the red. So beginning with the 2020 season, not tonight, but with 2020, we're back to our traditional red, black against the white. A logo that I've certainly become very fond of. It's the modern edition of the classic IMSA apex arrow and the initials that mean so much to everybody here. And I've enjoyed the gold, but I'm happy to go back to this.
So for the 51st season of IMSA competition, we go back to the classic look. Everybody wants to know about the schedules, I suppose I've got to say.
Get it right.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry for speaking English to you guys. There's going to be a bit of crossover here, ladies and gentlemen, so you might want to get phones out and take pictures for the ones that mean most to you and to your teams and drivers. Let's start. IMSA, International Motorsports Association, let's start with a bit of international. And let's start with a little bit of continental flair and the Ferrari Challenge Trofeo Pirelli.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say, and this may not mean anything to anyone other than those who have ever been charged with putting together a racing schedule and all the moving parts and logistics that go with that, local event conflicts, TV schedules, et cetera. For the first time in history, IMSA is able to announce all 7 of our championship platforms schedule tonight. So never been done before, a huge accomplishment, a lot of people, I won't name them off, but there's many people that have been working long hours to pull this off. Ferrari Challenge, first up, a great schedule. They race at Daytona every other year. 2020 is an on year. There's a couple of things that look a little bit oblique here as far as Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. That's associated with an open wheel series that tours the world that we cannot reference by name without being in trouble.
Do you mean we're not at liberty to reference that at the moment?
That's one point that's accurate.
Do you think we might get the Formula
later?
One day for that, shall we say? Did you notice the pause there? So the solicitors have no issues, the attorneys have no issues there.
Exactly. It's a strange dynamic there, but we
play, you think?
We play by the rules here at IMSA. And the Finale Mondiale, that's not our news to announce, but I'm told it's a very impressive venue that no one will be disappointed by. So great schedule for the Ferrari Challenge once again.
Shall we stay with the Italian flair then and move on to the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, the Squadra Corsa Championship? And let's be fair, they're a fan favourite. They're fast, they're mean, they're wicked, they're nasty, they look and sound great. Let's remind ourselves of Lamborghini Super Trofeo.
Lamborghini Super Trofeo North American Championship.
We have unleashed the bulls.
Tough move, gutsy move. These are serious race cars. Good downforce, good aerodynamics.
They look and sound exceptional, providing the excitement to show off speed and talent.
6 events to look at here. We're looking at something that we've seen before, except a visit north of the border for Lamborghini. That hasn't happened before?
First time, yeah.
Right.
So the Lambos will be doing their thing on the track as part of the Honda Indy Toronto. Our Porsche GT3 Cup Canada has been there and will continue to be. Cat out of the bag there for that schedule. But yeah, it should be great. And once again, you know, something about the Italians, they don't want us to divulge their world finals, so we'll have to wait for that. But again, a schedule that for the majority of the participants that are involved with this championship, many of them have day jobs, and if you look at the pace and how the events are separated over the course of the season, I think it's another good example that it's a really powerful schedule.
Whilst we're looking forward, we're also looking back and reminding ourselves of what we were talking about last year. Last year, one of the key points about the NBC SN deal was that they were going to be airing the single make manufacturer and the challenges that we have in India and the cup races that we have at IMSA. Shameless plug here, Thursday, August the 15th at midday Eastern for the Lamborghinis. If you're watching this later on video or you've got people who are outside the US, it is always streaming live, as all of the single manufacturer races are, and the challenges, including Michelin Pilot, on the IMSA app and on IMSA.tv. So there's plenty of ways for people to see this. If we move on from the 2 Italian championships to a manufacturer who's been involved in motor racing ever since they've been building cars, 70 plus years now of Porsche, 70 plus years of Porsche racing, and in some ways the very embodiment of endurance racing as well. 2 GT3 Cup Challenges under the auspices of IMSA. Let's start with the Canadian version of the championship and have a look at how they've been entertaining the crowds around their circuits in 2019.
Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama Series 14 ready to do battle. Side by side back into turn 8.
What action throughout the field. Passes for position.
He'll get position on the inside into turn number 9. The checkered flag is out.
45 minutes of exciting action today, and we're going to do it all again tomorrow.
The GT3 Cup Challenges by Yokohama, we've been able in the last few years since Yokohama's been involved with both of those series, Scott, to bring them together. And when we look at the key dates here, the one that stands out for me, of course, is Watkins Glen, because again, we bring, and again, bit of a spoiler alert here, but we are going to bring both the championships together there.
All true. You know, just as we are this weekend, it really plays well. And I think all of these circuits are either reprise from this season or part of a previous schedule that's happened. The one in particular, the return to Circuit de Mont-Tremblant, which I know is a favorite of yours.
Still my beating heart. I've never been there. I need to get there, Scott.
Yeah, it's a driver's track if there ever was one.
So that's the Canadian version. Close cousin of that, of course, here together this weekend with 37 cars on the grid. The GT3 Cup Challenge USA by Yokohama, and this is how their season has been looking in 2019.
Porsche racing has been a staple.
There's so much fun and just so much action.
Oh, and that was very close.
Very impressive speeds out of these new generation Porsches.
Outstanding talent. Fantastic flat six noise and competition.
I'll put my hand up now and declare an interest. I love the sound of a flat six first thing in the morning, and there is something very, very good about that. So again, here is, and I think we're beginning to pick up a theme here, Scott. Here is a schedule that looks pretty similar to what we've been seeing in the past.
It does, and again, it's one of those examples that if it's working, you know, don't change it. And a lot of really good events here that not all of them associated with IMSA. You know, the Barber Park, Motorsports Park example there with IndyCar, but the majority of them racing with us. And it's just a great partnership that we've had. As you say, it goes back to day one of motorsports as we know it in North America. I think there's always been a GT3 Cup Championship of some description. And this one's strong and getting stronger.
Yeah, looks great on track as well. The fans love that too. Here's how you can see the races this weekend. Looking forward to the 15th of August. It's a Thursday in the afternoon. Again, you can follow it on the app and on IMSA.tv, because once again, all of the single manufacturer and the Challenge Series are no blocks, no breaks, flag-to-flag coverage there as well. One of the real success stories, Scott, for a number of reasons, has been the IMSA Prototype Challenge. Took a change of format a couple of seasons ago, driven by a change in how prototypes were looking in the rest of the world, but also driven by consultation with the paddock. Let's have a look at the IMSA Prototype Challenge.
The IMSA Prototype Challenge.
180 miles an hour top speed. Great downforce, good braking.
With the big V8 engines, they look fab, they sound great, and they've got a challenge like no other.
I have to say, I do think the V8, and I know it's not an American V8, but I do think the rumble of the V8 has played a massive part in the fan favouritism for IMSA Prototype Challenge. When we look at the schedule, this whole format has been driven from the paddock, hasn't it?
It has, and you know, when we transitioned away from the original IMSA prototype category that had multiple types of cars running in it, we went exclusively LMP3. Candidly, there was some concerns, you know, even coming up from the paddock, that we're just not going to be able to get enough interest. It's too much of a car. The budgets are not there to be able to really populate the field the way we need to. Thankfully, that has not turned out to be the way at all. It's a very healthy and growing platform. You look at where things start. It was Ed Bennett's idea a couple years ago. Why don't we try an IMSA Prototype Challenge race at the Roar? Yep. And if you haven't been to the Roar or there for the race, it's an amazing experience for this race and for the competitors there. There's somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. What could go wrong? In the infield.
Opposite ends of the infield, by the way. They are stretched away as far as they could possibly be from each other.
Yeah.
Just saying, you know, possibly if there's any concerned parents here.
Bottom line is, these drivers are heroes that weekend for that audience, yes. and we are planting seeds for our fans of tomorrow with that event. So come back and do another 3-hour endurance at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, the rest of them the hour and 45-minute sprint. But we've got some housekeeping chores that come into play here as well. And you mentioned how this championship has evolved from feedback that's come through the paddock. Here's a great example. When we first introduced the LMP3 cars, as well as the others, it was a controlled pit stop for safety reasons. We didn't want teams to go out and spend a lot of money on equipment, on personnel, to make it part of the competition. The feedback that's come back after everybody's kind of settled into the pit stop motif is let's make it part of the competition. So no longer, beginning in 2020, will it be a controlled time limit stop. It's now part of the race. So we will retain the same restrictions on equipment and personnel to keep a cap, a lid on the expenses associated with it. The other changes, as you can see, we've highlighted them. A mandatory bronze driver in each car, all the time, sprint and for the endurance races, and also mandatory 2 drivers in each car. Up to this point for the sprint races, if you were the Iron Man, Iron Woman that wanted to do it on your own, you could do it, no longer. Retaining the same configuration for the Bronze Cup, all bronze drivers.
Yeah.
But this brings the championship into consistency with the other LMP3 platforms around the world. So it's a good thing for everybody.
And again, I just want to highlight what Scott said there. This is not IMSA putting their foot down with a firm hand and banging the table saying you're going to do this. This has come out of the paddock, Scott, of consultation. In some cases, quite recent consultation.
Yeah, you know, for some, it might be an example of be careful what you wish for, you just might get it.
Okay, I love the idea of Bronze Driver Cup as well. And now we're going to give Scott a chance to have a little sip of water and rest his voice for a moment as we move.
Before we go,
right.
I just want to say, you know, I've been asked 1,000 times, you know, when you came through the merger, you know, what was the most valuable element? You know, what was the standout that resulted? And I've said it consistently that the most valuable element was taking and combining our 2 schedules. What was the Grand Am and what was the ALMS, and putting them together. We used to make it up on the back of an envelope. We could start at Daytona, we could go to Sebring, we could go to Long Beach. Let's watch.
Are you ready?
Of the Rolex 24 at Daytona.
Let's go! Contact made!
With 11 minutes to go, it's all over.
Another lap could be critical in all of these 3 classes.
Whoa! Lundqvist
What a
keeps
save.
it off the wall.
The legend that is the Mobil 1 12 hours of Sebring.
Here's going to be elbows out immediately. Go for it. Be aggressive.
Take a deep breath now.
Banging fenders. It's not over yet.
There is always a dramatic end to this race.
Some of the most challenging tarmac anywhere in North America.
Fills that gap. Oh, what a pass.
What a run. A good old-fashioned street fight here in Detroit.
The real chess match around this racetrack with the traffic, AJ. He moves all the way up. Oh, there's contact.
That was a busy 100 minutes.
The 6 hours at the Glen today will not only be unique in terms of the race length, but also the pace.
But they've got to get these cars to the end of the race. The champagne can be sprayed.
This July 4 weekend, but the modern tradition is to be racing north of the border here in Ontario, Canada. Calvin said it, big commitment, and you're going to see that all day long.
Side by side with Tandy.
Tremendous battle through traffic.
It's a wonderful racetrack. Always great to come back here.
Fans have been coming to Lime Rock Park at Lakeville since 1957. A mile-and-a-half track that tests every metal, every fibre of the drivers. It's a long lap here. Big move!
Is he going to hold it?
My blood pressure's higher than their fuel pressure at the moment. The circuit has been restored to even better than its original glory. This is GT racing at its very best. WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Circuit, every point seems that little more important. Side-by-side action.
Oh, that was tight there.
What's next on the schedule? Motul Petit Le Mans.
To the end of the season.
Everyone is going to be going for it.
Oh no!
It absolutely lived up to expectations.
What a race, what a season.
I love IMSA racing.
It is the best sports car championship in the world.
Lee Diffie there at the end, and unusually for an Englishman in the middle of an Ashes Test series, which is cricket, by the way, I'm going to agree with the Australian there. The best schedule, the best endurance and sports car racing in the world, and the schedule plays a part to that, Scott. No surprises here, no major changes. If I can pick out a couple of things, the Sebring date looks a little bit later than normal, but that means St. Patrick's Day is in the same week, which kind of makes it the same for me.
Yeah, it has the appearance of being a week later, but it is consistent with what the criteria is for setting the SEBRING date, and that is the third full weekend in March. Always have, hopefully always will be that. And so this year, 2020, March 1st is a Sunday. So you go out the third full weekend, and that's where you land. Long Beach, same situation, but it's only driven by the calendar. I think it's affected by the movement of Easter as to where that race lines up.
Which is literally a movable feast, yes, of course. Something about Mid-Ohio that I want to bring up, which actually isn't on there, and it's not necessarily in your gift, but there's now no clash with the WEC because they've moved their date. And whilst that might not affect everybody in this room, there will be people who will look at that and go, oh, that's good news.
Yeah, for the drivers, several of them that participate both in the World Endurance Championship as well as in the WeatherTech Championship, this is great news. We were actively in conversation with the ACO and the WEC to resolve that. I think they were a little surprised when the Formula E schedule came out. So there's a lot of people that are going to take credit for getting that resolved. We couldn't care less. The bottom line is there's no more conflict and it's good for everybody.
The next point I want to bring up actually comes under the TV, which I know is next and we can talk about, and that's this date next year here at Road America. Traditional date. But that's right in the middle of the Olympics. Was there no thought about changing that, particularly when your TV partner is America's Olympic Network?
Let's talk about TV because the real headline here, and we will get to that, that's an important point, but what we've been able to do for 2020 is to go back to being able to bookend our season on network television. We were not able to be on NBC Network this year at the Rolex 24. We will start our season on the network and we will end our season on the network. So just as we will this year with live flag-to-flag coverage from WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, which is the perfect lead-in to our season finale at Motul Petit Le Mans, and the first 3 hours of that, same drill on network. Your reference to this event next year, you could say good luck, bad luck, it's really beyond our control. It lands right in the heart of the coverage on NBC of the Summer Olympics from Japan. Our partners at NBC could have easily said, you know what, we're sorry, there's just no way we can provide coverage that weekend. It'll be a tape delay, 2 weeks later. They didn't do that. They found a solution for us on CNBC, one of the most widely distributed cable networks there is. I think it's over 90 million households get CNBC. There's going to be a lot of sports content on CNBC during the Olympics. So we've got a good chance of being aligned, with some good lead-in programming. It's a one-off situation every 4 years, and I think NBC has dealt with it in a very respectful way that we're all going to benefit from.
Let's take a look at the Michelin Pilot Challenge. It's been a great year of racing in that particular championship here. Here's just a little taster for you.
A cracking season of racing.
It is a manufacturer melting pot here. GS remains on top.
And look at this in TCR.
Send it. A great scrap down the inside in the final corner.
For the lead, they rub, they go wide here. Oh, there's contact. The drivers are really going to feel like they have done their work in the Michelin Pilot Challenge.
It's been a brilliant season. It's gone through a bit of transition, Scott, let's be honest, with the transition now to GT4's GS and TCR as the secondary class. The schedule looks pretty similar to what we've seen. I can't see any major changes there, and of course everything's alongside the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship.
Yeah, just as is the case with the WeatherTech Championship, the Michelin Pilot Challenge is a textbook example of don't fix it if it's not broken. We are going to all the best venues with all the best promoter partners. You see the format with a 4-hour true endurance race to open the season up at Daytona. We'll do the same thing at Watkins Glen. Otherwise, really no change, and I don't think anybody's complaining. The racing in the Michelin Pilot Challenge this year has been outstanding. It's always been good, but I think this year has raised the bar across the board.
The addition of TCR as well, we talked about getting new, different people to come and watch motor racing. I followed up a little train of, I think, 5 Hondas, all of which had been modified. There was a lot of money that had been spent on those Hondas of various age and type, and they were coming up to to support the TCR cars. We wouldn't have seen those in the days when we didn't have the TCR cars.
Yeah, agreed. Hopefully they had IMSA stickers in the back window there. If not, we'll take care of that.
I always carry some just in case, you know that.
Me too.
Here's the commitment again by NBCSN for the IMSA Pilot Challenge. That'll be August the 11th, which is a Sunday in the morning. But once again, as I've said all the way through, Michelin Pilot Challenge is one of the series that you can follow live, whether you're here in the States or further afield. Right, let's move on to some more housekeeping. We've done the schedules, no surprises there, and for the majority of what we're going to talk about, no surprises here either.
We continue our great tribute to Bob Aiken, who was the consummate gentleman driver that made a living outside of racing, but was a very accomplished driver in his own right. Same rules apply, so the eligible bronze and silver drivers up for not only a very impressive trophy that would look good in anyone's trophy case, but probably equal, if not more importantly, that automatic invitation to the 24 Hours of Le Mans for the top points earning driver in the season. Here's a little bit of a change. Again, responsive to the requests coming up from the paddock. We had several team owners approach us and say, with all respect to my amateur driver, 15 minutes just isn't enough to accomplish what we need to accomplish. Is it possible we could get more? So beginning in 2020, unlike the current format where it's the first 15 minutes of the first practice, we will now go to practice 2, whereas practice 1, I'm not the strategist here, but I'm going to say the pro is in practice 1, sets up the car, makes sure it's all pointed in the right direction. First 15 minutes is bronze and silver only. Second 15 minutes, those same bronze and silver drivers remain in the cars, but we've put the full field out there so they get the experience.
So they get some traffic experience.
What it's like to have Castro Neves behind you blinking the high beams.
It's scary having Castro Neves behind you in the line at Marion's, quite honestly, particularly if you're standing in front of the ice screen. Okay, extra, he's happy this year, he really is. I noticed as well extra set of tyres for anybody who does participate in that. So, tyre allocation is something that's important, but you do get an extra set of tyres. Here's how it breaks down in terms of the GTD category, both for the overall championship and the 2 cut-down championships.
Yep, this again is a do-over, so to speak, but in the same way that we have this year. This is feedback from the paddock. We want a 10-race championship. We want an alternative that is much less expensive. Let's pull the endurance races out of the equation. 7-race Sprint Cup championship. Sprint Cup, Detroit, a requirement, an elective for anyone else, and of course the 4 races of the Michelin Endurance Cup don't change.
And just to underline what Scott was saying there, if you look down about 2/3 of the way down the left-hand side there, the Sprint Cup is the singleton entry there. You don't have to go to Detroit if you don't want to. We had actually quite a good turnout there, more than I expected.
Highly encouraged and very pleased. I think we had 12 GTD entries at Detroit. We want that again. We want people to want to win the Sprint Cup Championship just as badly as they do the full WeatherTech Championship. So for those of you that raced with us in Detroit, please come back. We appreciate it.
Let's move on to the other GT category, the works category, if you will. New cars for 2020, and one of them sitting outside. Is that yours?
Yeah, no, I wish. Yeah, just a stunning example. And, the road car version is very impressive. You can only imagine what the race car version of that will be. So new content in GTLM, both with the Corvette and with the new Porsche. We were trying to get that one here for display as well, but we'll have to wait to see it. But to say that GTLM will be, same old, not next year. There's some new stuff coming.
And just to quickly reiterate the schedule, we've, again, not the GTLM cars, not going to all of the events. They can't go to the Acura Grand Prix because they're away at Le Mans, obviously, for the test weekend, and we understand that.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do, and it's worked out, and again, no real change here, and that's the good news.
Sorry, they can't go to Detroit. Of course, they do go to the Long Beach. That was my fault. LMP2 moving up again. LMP2, we haven't had I'm sure the entries that everybody that IMSA once, but we're persisting with LMP2 for 2020?
No question. We've been consistent and we're committed here, just as we did Bob Aiken in the GT category. We have a Jim Truman reference here with the prototype. LMP2 class needs some bolstering, and we're in a position to do what we can here. Same rules apply on the practice times. Same, 15 minutes starting the practice 2, 15 more with the full season out there. And, we've got something in the next slide here that I think will help bolster things. Again, direct feedback from the paddock. We are going to experiment a little bit here by taking the Rolex 24 at Daytona out of the championship for the LMP2 class. Now, LMP2 cars are still very much welcome, encouraged, and expected to be.
Is there still a watch?
Absolutely. There's a watch, there's a trophy, there's all the spoils that come from winning the Rolex 24 at Daytona. But for budgetary reasons, it will no longer be part of the WeatherTech Championship. Right. And again, direct feedback from the stakeholders, not only the teams that are competing with us today, but others that have expressed interest. So we did that. We get a little bit ahead of myself here. You'll see it in a moment when we show the schedule slide. But we will confirm a 6-race season that will also take Canadian Tire Motorsport Park off of the schedule for the LMP2 cars. It eliminates the back-to-back. Again, it's a budgetary consideration. The opportunity here for a 6-race season that is very evenly spaced throughout the year. Hopefully this is the secret sauce that will put the LMP2 numbers back up.
But the 4 races for the IMSA Michelin Endurance Cup still remain, so that presumably still includes the Rolex.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
If you are an LMP2 competitor and you want to run for the Michelin Endurance Cup, obviously Daytona has to be part of that.
You've got to do the endurance race.
You got to do it. Yep. Hence the asterisk on the reference to it there. But there's your 6-race package, very evenly spaced throughout the season. Hopefully this is it absolutely is what's been asked for. Hopefully it delivers the goods.
Okay, we'll watch that very closely. I'm sure you'll be scribbling away and working out what that means for yourselves. Let's move to DPI, top class. DPI has been a success, Scott. I'll say that. It's been an unmitigated success. These are the manufacturers that we've got right now, but you can't stand still. You and I have talked about what we've euphemistically called DPI 2.0. It's actually DPI 2022, and the future is not that far away.
It's exceeded our highest expectations, but nobody's resting on any laurels here. It is full speed ahead. Simon Hodgson, Matt Kurdock, and our technical team there very much embraced the opportunity to define the next generation DPI. You see the numbers. We're homologated in the current form through 2021. New cars making their debut in 22, and then for the following 5 years, locked down. No news here that the hybrid will be part of all of the powertrains associated with DPI 22. We're, I believe at this moment, in concert, in dialogue at least, with 10 or 11 hybrid manufacturers. More details on that to follow. We are looking for this new class, or this new technical regulation of the DPI class, to embrace an IMSA Green initiative, look ideally for a next generation fuel in addition to the hybrid power. We will retain the internal combustion engine options, so small displacement, turbocharged, large displacement, naturally aspirated, all the various combinations that have been available in the current form will still...
So you're not mandating an engine size or a V6 this or a V8 that or i4?
There are some limitations on size and scope and scale, but it's not different than where they are today.
There are choices.
There are many choices, yeah. Okay. I don't know of any example that we haven't been able to accommodate, and that won't change. The big change here is one of the, not complaints, but one of the requests is give us more freedom to be able to style the car more aggressively so that it has the design elements, the design cues that each brand wants to evoke with their DPI. Essentially, the car is going to be open for that. The aero elements that are expensive and really create the downforce are going to be locked down, so we don't want any arms races in that category.
Of course.
All the cars will need to fit into an aero performance window. That's not changed. We will control that very carefully, but we've delivered, or soon will deliver, what the manufacturers want in terms of styling.
All right, that's great, but what's the timeline, Scott?
First time we've shown this publicly. There is the timeline for the development of the next generation DPI. The green check marks indicate things that are already done and dusted. I think our wind tunnel model is actually in the wind tunnel as we speak. We've built a generic model just to educate ourselves. The tender for the hybrid about to go. The technical regs at the latest Q1 20. Hopefully it comes sooner, but no later than that. Track testing, Q1 21, and then we're all racing with brand new content become January 22.
What I noticed there is technical regulations 2 years before you expect to see the cars on the track. That's ambitious. Is it deliverable?
No question about it. This is a textbook example of how to go about defining next generation regulations. I think we have 9 manufacturers actively involved in our technical working group, another one threatening to join. So again, Simon and his team just doing an outstanding job there. It's a full-time job in and of itself, but we've got a race series to run too.
That's the future. Let's bring ourselves back to a little closer to hand and take a look at the 2020 DPI, run through the season in a bit more detail. Endurance Cup races, we know they're well developed now. The fans love them, the teams love them, and whether they're at the track or further afield, they get a good audience. Everything there we've seen before, so that's not an issue, really, is it?
All the same.
Oh, heavens. Oh, yes, that's the one you have to take. This is the one you want to take a picture of.
Yeah,
everybody.
if you're going to take one picture tonight, this is it, because it really tells the tale of where we go and who's a part of each of our weekends. There's one more slide to come, which will be the second of 2 pictures you want to take tonight. Okay. But this really details it out. And again, no surprises here.
And date equity, we've talked about this for a very, very long time, and that builds success. So congratulations to everybody for pulling those 7 schedules that we've talked about, ladies and gentlemen, for the IMSA series for 2020. You mentioned IMSA Green Racing. Give us the highlights of that, because that was an interesting thing, but there's clearly more detail here.
We're effectively getting the band back together. We've been associated with the Environmental Protection Agency and the Department of Energy in the past, along with SAE International. We announced the reformation of that, not only the group, but the objectives that we had laid out. The goal here is to revitalize that relationship. And if you're a manufacturer competing in a racing series that has the endorsement of these government agencies, that can only be described as a big positive. We have our own set of initiatives, and the goal here is simply to reduce our carbon footprints as we go racing in a very attainable way. Part and parcel to that is a great level of cooperation from our tire partner, Michelin, to ironically look at the opportunity to reduce our consumption of tires. That has a very significant impact on the environment, but there's more to it. IMSA has also embraced the EPA SmartWay program. In brief terms, that's enabling large trucks, trailers, like our haulers, to go down the road more efficiently, aerodynamically, low resistant rolling tires, et cetera. We're going to lead by example, and we hope that others follow. I think many of our transporters already fit the profile, but we want all of them too. In terms of racing, we've already talked about the hybridization of the next generation DPI. eTCR is coming. TCR is alive and well and growing rapidly with us. This will be an incremental opportunity for us. We are effectively the North American master franchisee for TCR, so we intend to evolve into the eTCR mode as well. More on that to come in the near future, but we're also working on the potential of an IMSA-specific e-prototype solution. So a lot going on there. We're encouraging our manufacturer partners with their hot lap cars, bring us your plug-in hybrids. And we've got a group that's on their way to Detroit on Monday to meet with a company. The opportunity there would be to use a solar charging station to top up those batteries in between sessions completely off the grid. So it's another example of just trying to lead by example, and that's where we're headed in terms of IMSA Green.
Hot lap cars, no cost to the planet. Love it.
That's
really
the plan.
Good stuff. Here is a quick reminder of which series are going to be where. This is the second picture then, isn't it?
This is it.
You need to take.
Yeah.
You've got 3 seconds from now. 2, 1. Okay.
Our next stop on the calendar, VIR, 6 of the 7 properties. Same thing at WeatherTech Raceway. Same thing next year. Ferrari Challenge likes to do their own thing. They'll be with us at Daytona, but they're off on their own calendar after that.
All right. That's all next year. Let's come back to this year and just have a little summary of where we are right now.
It's been an incredible season. We have 19 manufacturers actively involved with us. 14 of them have at least one win this year. You see the breakdown between WeatherTech and the Michelin Pilot Championship. 50 drivers have stood on the top step. Since the inception of IMSA, what is today's WeatherTech Championship, the equivalent of the top tier, 995 drivers. We've got the office pool going right now as to who's going to be the 1,000th different driver to get that win. Wow. But that's what's coming. You look at the other stats on this season, this is a perfect example. With one exception, here we sit with going into the 8th race of the season completely knotted up. And Mike Shank, what a season you're having. Don't want to wish any ill will on anyone here, but candidly, anything can happen. The same thing taking place within the Michelin Pilot Challenge, where in both classes, the top 3 are separated by very, very few points. The good news is, on the broadcast side of the house, as we've mentioned, the best is yet to come. We're going to finish up this incredible season all on network in a really powerful way.
And I should say as well, don't forget the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca race is the end of the Sprint Cup for GTD, so we will effectively be doing arithmetic on the fly there. When I say we, obviously I mean Jeremy Shaw, because that's what he does. He's brilliant at it. And then Petit Le Mans on network. Talk of Petit Le Mans is Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and I'm excited about the Michelin Tower, a massive departure from what we've had in the past there.
Yeah, we referenced, the Michelin's plans going forward, and this is, Exhibit A. The image on the left obviously is a computer-generated version. The lower right image is about 5 days ago construction. For the record, there's 29 construction days available before our certificate of occupancy is due in order for the grand opening of this beautiful new building that'll coincide with Motul Petit Le Mans. So if there ever was a game changer for a racetrack, this fits the bill. It's impressive.
And I get to do the first broadcast from there for IMSA Radio. We were fortunate enough to do the first broadcast after Daytona Rising there. What an honour that was. We get to go ahead. And you did get the memo from us about the wet bar and the jacuzzi, the hot tub in the broadcast booth?
Actually, it's on the roof.
Oh, that's all. No, we can live with that. I can go up a few stairs. Here's our final plug for this particular weekend, August the 4th, 6 p.m. A little bit of a delay, but again, you can listen live, and outside the US, you can be watching live as well. Part of the commitment, the continued commitment from NBCSN, which goes well beyond this 50th anniversary year.
And a tremendous lead-in. First time that we've been able to have this configuration where we will come out of Sunday's live Watkins Glen road race, historically a very highly rated broadcast for NASCAR, straight into the broadcast here of our Road America event. So good stuff coming on Sunday evening.
If you're a child of the 80s as I was, you'll remember the band Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Well, this is IMSA Goes to Hollywood, with not one but a couple of movies coming out shortly that showcase sports car racing in general, IMSA in particular.
I think you'd have to go back to the 70s when Steve McQueen's Le Mans came out to find an equivalent to what's coming our way. As you just mentioned, the Ford versus Ferrari, that's a bit later in the year. Tremendous sports car film that will be racing-centric, closer to home and closer on the calendar. Last night in Hollywood was the premiere. I'm sure it's all over Entertainment Tonight and Entertainment News for what Patrick Dempsey and Milo Ventimiglia and Kevin Costner and Amanda Seyfried, they were all on the red carpet last night. Our own Will Turner was there. I'm sure he's got lots of stories to tell. It opens nationwide and ultimately worldwide, but nationwide here in North America next Friday, April 9th, or April, you know what I meant, August 9th. And let's take an opportunity to see a bit of an extended clip here, just what we all have to look forward to.
Hey IMSA fans, I'm Milo Ventimiglia.
And I'm Amanda Seyfried.
Check out a clip from our new movie, The Art of Racing in the Rain.
Don't forget it opens Friday, August 9th at a theater near you.
What'd you say his name is again?
Denny Swift, number 96 car. You trust me, this kid's a diamond in the rough. about starting your own team? Here's your man, right there.
He's been down almost a full lap this whole stint.
It's not about who's got the heavier foot. It's about feel. Then he was the first to make the call to switch to rain tires. Hey, what's this? Reminds me what they used to say about Senna. When it rains, it doesn't rain on him.
It's worth going to see. That was shot at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Various scenes from Ford versus Ferrari at Michelin Road, Atlanta. A couple of final thoughts from you, Scott, before we bid farewell to our audience tonight.
Yeah, it's, if there's only a couple of takeaways from this evening, I hope it is, one, it's a time for IMSA that we're achieving a level of stability and predictability and, most importantly, sustainability that, frankly, we've not had in the past. And we're on the cusp of one of our best, if not the best, overall seasons in terms of all the important things that we all measure. If you take away from tonight that the future is also very optimistic, it's bright. We've got great partnerships with our entitlement partners, with our broadcast partners, and most especially with the teams that occupy our paddock and make it possible to do what we do. So I want to thank everyone that joined us here this evening. I know the schedules around a race weekend are always very busy. You've probably got dinner plans and commitments later on this evening. We'll get you out of here in a second. But these are tough to pull together. There's a lot of people. It's a slippery slope when you start naming them off. I'm just going to say David Pettit and his entire marketing staff, Rebecca Roski, who was really on point putting this together, much appreciated. And our friends at PSAV that did the audio-visual, great job as always. To Mike Karcher and his team here at Road America, what a facility. It's never looked better. And again, on behalf of all of us at IMSA, Jim France, Ed Bennett, thank you for joining us tonight. Good luck to all of you tomorrow and certainly on Sunday.
Now, we've been recording this tonight, ladies and gentlemen, so you'll see a version of this. We're going to get it up as quickly as we can via IMSA.com and the IMSA YouTube channel as well. Scott, thank you very much. Always
John,
a pleasure
great job.
to sit here. So, IMSA, in its golden anniversary year, what have we learned? If it doesn't need changing, don't change it. We've got a stable calendar. We've got increases across the board where it matters. And we've got new fans coming to see your motor racing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a great night. Travel safely, and we'll see you back at the track tomorrow. Thank you.